Make some noise. This is my first time ever here, so I'm really excited. My name is Amanda Shea, and I will be your host for this morning, this afternoon. For those who are not familiar with spoken word poetry, it is a form of performance art in which speakers express themselves verbally on a particular subject. Throughout the year, we have been centering our poetry around what matters to you. That's our GBH tagline, just so you know. And what matters to you is a really open question. It could mean anything: family, love, all of the things, right? But due to the AC issues at BPL, we were unable to host this month's Outspoken at the GBH Studio. However, it's still important for us to celebrate LGBTQIA Pride Month. Can we make some noise? But also Juneteenth. Can we make some noise? We would love to provide a platform for artists, so therefore we have 4 curated speakers this afternoon who will be reading us some beautiful poetry, and we're so grateful to be able to still have Outspoken this month in the Yaki Theater. Today, as a part of the conversation, we are having a panel discussion followed by the 4 spoken word poets. So let's get started with the panel. Are y'all ready? I need all of the energy and all of the noise. With that being said, please allow me to introduce our first fabulous guest, Adrianna Bolin. Make some noise. Come on up here. Have a seat. You're welcome. And Cristela Guerra. Ooh, I love your fits. This green. Ooh, the blazer. It's giving like fall, even though we're in the summer. I'm seeing what it is. Adrianna Bolin is the president of Boston Pride for the People. Make some noise, because Boston Pride is literally next week. It's June 8th, really?
June 8th.
Oh my gosh, already. And also is one of this year's organizers for the Boston Pride for the People parade next Saturday on June 8th. Woo! Y'all are all coming, right? Because like we need everybody in the building heavy. Cristela is a senior arts and culture reporter at WBUR, one of my favorite places. Give it up, give it up. Most recently, Cristela was selected for the 2024 class of the Nieman Foundation for Journalism at Harvard University. Give it up, give it up, give it up.
Thank you.
Harvard. How you feeling?
I graduated like last week.
Oh my gosh,
Congratulations.
congratulations.
It's like the first day. I think the email is officially like off. Like we finished. Like yesterday was my last day.
Yes.
I know. I feel crazy. It was beautiful. I met the best people.
Oh,
It was 9
congratulations.
months. Yeah.
But you're like, I'm glad it's over.
No,
'cause I
no,
get
no.
to sleep.
Actually, I'm so sad. I took so there's what was 12 American fellows and 12 fellows from all over the world. So I just took a bunch of people back to the airport in the last few days, and I just made really good friends, and they're all going home, and I'm sad about it. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was a great year.
But listen, they're a flight away, and
Facts.
you know you don't have to worry about lodging because now you have new friends and new places.
Facts.
So that's
Yes,
the beautiful thing.
That is true.
I'm
That's
always
true.
trying to stay for free somewhere. Trust me.
I respect that. Yes, for real.
I love that. Adriana, you just came back from traveling too, didn't you?
I did.
Where did you just come back from?
I went to Mexico.
Okay.
Yes. So where in Mexico
Playa
were
del
you?
Carmen.
Oh, I've
How
never
was it?
been.
So beautiful. It's such a spiritual place, a place where I feel so connected to myself and the earth and the people around me, and everyone is just community is the theme. Everyone says hello. I see the poetry all around me as people are putting things together in the morning. It's really beautiful.
I need to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to go. I'm actually going September 13th.
Okay.
So we gonna trade stories.
Yes.
But enough about vacation, because we could talk about that forever.
True.
I want to talk about Pride.
Yeah.
And I want to also talk about Juneteenth.
Mm.
The fact that we have these intersections in this month of June. I wanted to first start with, can you tell us a little bit about Boston Pride for the People and the events that you have going on throughout the month, Adriana? And then I'm going to ask Cristela, what does Boston Pride mean to you?
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Boston Pride for the People, BP4TP. Woo! So our mission is to celebrate the beauty, rich diversity and unique culture of LGBTQ plus communities through commemoration, celebration, empowerment, and education. I like to stop because it's just, I'm so proud to be a part of something whose mission is to see our community and support them in all those ways. So I stop for a moment because I feel it. I feel all the history in that, all the people who paved the way and lit the flame that we continue to carry. And I also see the leaders that we're supporting and paying it forward, getting ready to pass on the flame too. So that is all in what I just shared. And we focus on two things. One, we focus on organizing the yearly Pride Parade and festival in the Boston area, which is June 8th, next Saturday.
Yes.
And we also, in the month of June and throughout the year, amplify and uplift the amazing events and initiatives and activities that are curated by people in our communities, allies who also are reaching and supporting our communities. There's so much happening, and we want to make sure that people know about it. So those are our mission and our focuses.
Thank you, Adrianna. This is your second year, if I'm not mistaken,
It is.
of you heading all of this and being the leader of Boston Pride for the people. How are you feeling, before I get to Cristela, how are you feeling in your second year? Were there any major lessons or anything that you're reflecting on from last year to this year?
I've never had this comparison until you asked me, and so I'm laughing through it because I was like, wow. But so I'm not a parent yet, a parent of a biological child. I feel like, I don't want to get too deep, but like there's mentorship and parenting in all different ways and forms. But I don't have a biological child, but I've heard individuals who have children that say like the first one, like I didn't know what to expect, like, all these. And that was first of all, I did not know. We did not know what we were signing up for. Like, I was like, okay, we're just coming together, passionate volunteers to plan this little function. And it was so much more than we thought. Mm-hmm. I learned so much. I've grown so much. And it just in the way that you're bringing a new life into this world, it felt like we were bringing something new into this world. And this second time around, it feels like what I've heard, like people say about bringing their next like child into this world. Yeah, I got this. Like, it's cool. And like, granted, there's still a lot going on. We're like juggling a lot of things, and we feel prepared. Yeah. We know more about what to expect. And what's also on my heart now is like, we know our community is with us, behind us, and also ready to step forward with us to get the work done. Yeah. We felt that so much. There's still people saying like, last year was my favorite Pride, and people didn't need to say that, but just even the fact that someone takes the time and energy to say something to you means it's true and it really matters. It's on their heart. And we are so supported by our city, by our state, by New England. And so excited for this year. So much has come from last year and the planning of this year, and I'm so proud of what we created, and I'm so excited for what it will continue to become.
Woo! I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm really happy. It's the first day of Pride, so I'm just gonna be beaming all day.
Yes.
Cristela.
Yes.
What is Boston Pride? You've lived here for some time now.
10 years next year.
Wow.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
How do you feel with Boston Pride for the people? You've seen and you've reported on a lot of what was going on as far as the changes now, the second year that we're here. What do you think Boston Pride means to you? And how important is it with the new changes and seeing Adrianna lead this beautiful team? What are some distinct things that stick out for you?
I mean, I think folks I'm a reporter at BUR. I'm speaking as a journalist, and the evolution of what Pride sort of means, both like for a community and then like in the greater like country, because we're at a time where LGBTQ folks are constantly, I think, feeling sort of like there's always this feeling of a struggle. And then especially over the last few years, we've been sort of seeing and witnessing the way that these, you know, anti-LGBTQ laws and even the censoring of books with queer folks represented has affected, I think, the community's feeling of safety. Simultaneously, what you see is also spaces opening. And you see pride being reclaimed by those who actually should have been those at the front of it to begin with, which is BIPOC folks, you know, which is trans people, which is sort of what we know to be the movements that were never fully, like, it was never perfect. I took a class called Queer Nation in the fall, learning about the history of like queer politics in this country with an incredible Professor Tim McCarthy at HKS. And, you know, he was clear. He's like, we were always a mess. There was always extremely anti-trans sentiments. There was always a sense that we needed to kind of pull ourselves together to then, like, in theory, not put our best foot forward, but like, what do we look like as an LGBTQ community? And who do we allow at the forefront of these movements? And so I look at you. I look at the way that we're bringing queer family in. I look at the way that we're bringing uplifting queer youth. The emphasis in Boston, the way that it's not just like, yes, we party, of course. It's Women of Color Weekend this weekend, right? Like, but these are moments, these are movements headed by QTPOC folks. And it's sacred in that way. It makes it different. You know, so as a journalist, it's one thing to witness it because I want to cover my community. I cover immigrants. I cover queer folks. I cover those who I think, whose lived experience I fully understand. But I also then embody, like, my partner's coming next weekend. You know, before we leave the town for a little bit, we're coming with her son to Boston Pride. You know? And so, like, he's 9 and he hasn't been to Boston Pride. And I'm so proud to show him Pride in this city because we did El Paso Pride last year. You know, and that I've never seen 3 Selenas in drag, right? Like, that's Texas, right? And so, like, the way I see it is, like, Pride is becoming both, it's the fight, which we know because it's an election year and we know what we're up against, and it's the celebration of it. It's the removal of the rainbow washing of it, right? We're not letting these sort of corporations and ideas and mindsets claim what we know to be, like, the truth of what Pride was, which was, I mean, God knows that we're always fighting up against something.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Can I say real quick, thank you. What you offered made me think of something I didn't share, which is our theme. And our theme this year is Still Here in Living Color.
Oh, I'm very excited.
I love that.
And the Still Here, much like you said, like, we have always been fighting for something.
Yeah.
We are still here fighting for our rights to exist as our authentic selves.
Yeah.
And damn it, we are still here. Look at us. We are still here holding it down, able to support each other, calling for what we need, and doing it in living color, in our fluid form, authentic form. And so thank you for what you just shared, because it just, what you shared is the space that we want to express and have honored and acknowledged. Thank you.
I can't wait.
I'm excited.
Very excited.
First 9-year-old Boston Pride.
Oh,
I'm here for
so
it.
exciting.
I just want to ask you, what is HKS for folks that don't know?
Oh, I'm sorry. So Harvard Kennedy School, and it's actually, I think, one of the few classes in that entire place focused on policy that teaches about sort of like the queer history of this country and the way sort of queer rights have been worked into work for human rights. Yeah.
I could hear some whispers in the audience of like, where is that at? Oh, it's fine. I think that's a beautiful course to take, and I think all of us should, which leads me to my next question, because you talked about the movement. In what ways can the LGBTQIA community, the movement and the fight for racial justice support each other, particularly in the context of Pride Month and Juneteenth, because we see a lot of separation? What do you think? Any one of you can answer that question. I see you kind of like thinking about it.
There's a quote that's coming to mind, and I'll paraphrase it. It speaks to how our freedom is all bound in each other's, and really the pursuit of freedom for one is really the pursuit of freedom for all. And there's so much power in that statement and in that act of seeing that empowering another person. There's a curb effect to that. There's an empowerment of you and others around you in the community. And so in thinking about how we can support each other, it's seeing the journey to freedom and someone's best self in them and in you. I'm also thinking about Ubuntu, which is another parable that I hold dear to me, and it is, I am because you are. And I think really embodying that or seeing that it exists, it is there, and really seeing that will help us all see that we're working towards the same direction, taking different paths, and sometimes holding hands in those paths can make the journey there a better one.
I would offer, I think, the history of I don't know if we all realize what we've lived over. We know it, but we haven't fully processed that grief, right? It's 2024. And so I think about covering, we were told, quarantine for maybe 3 months, and then we'll be out of this. They were like, April 7th, we'll be good, right? That was because my grandmother passed on March 11th, and I remember coming back to the country, and it was shut down. And then what I remember as a journalist, and I know folks here at GBH know it too, is we were basically told work from home. Artists suddenly were losing grant funding. All this stuff happened. We've talked about this a lot. But then suddenly, George Floyd, right? Like the world witnesses this atrocious, this fucking devastating murder. And then during June, we both see the so-called racial reckoning, which I don't know if I like that term for it, but we see the world explode, you know, in a level of rage and sort of righteous movement. But it was during Pride. We saw the same thing when Roe v. Wade was overturned. That was June, right? Like all these things seem to hit somehow around this period. And so it's never just one thing. It is always, and then Juneteenth is right in the middle of it, right? And then that is, both people are like, well, that was a long time ago. And I'm like, it's also right now. You know, the past is prologue. We're seeing it all like coming in this period of time. Summer seems to be a moment where people are coming out of their, like, you know, the city comes out like we're basking in the sunlight of it, but we're also suddenly like ready and we're in the street again, you know? And not that folks don't protest during other months, but it's really, if you look at the last 4 years, this has always been a time for many different types of movements, you know? They've come together.
I love that you made that correlation because I was writing a poem with Rev Spaces, and I was looking back at the history of all the movements, and you're absolutely right. They all take place between June and August.
Yeah.
And I think that's when people feel like, you know, the weather is really nice, especially considering we live in the north.
Yeah.
And, you know, sprinter was what we usually have before we actually have summer.
Right.
With that being said, I think that feeling of wanting to be liberated because we're outside, and then when you come outside and look at the landscape and understand that we're not truly liberated in that, it makes us angry, and then it makes us want to do something about it, that source of action. This is actually not a question on the interview questions, so forgive me if it's kind of throwing you off, and I'll give you both a moment to respond. I do want to talk about, as much as we said about the movement and, you know, Juneteenth and Pride and June being so significant, I want to talk specifically about the city of Boston and what I'm seeing in the landscape as far as this separation. And I really want to know real solutions of what that unification is going to look like, because as we can see, you know, Pride is all about visibility for LGBTQIA folks. But we also have Juneteenth, which is also about visibility of Black folks and our liberation. It's not ironic that both of those things, and also people like us who identify as being BIPOC, as being queer, do you think, let me not ask it like that, how do you believe we can approach the unification of Black Bostonians with Black LGBTQIA? I told you it was heavy, so I'm gonna give you a minute, because I feel like, and this is just my opinion and as an artist, you know, I show up first, just as myself.
Yeah.
But what people see is obviously the color of my skin first. So when we think about skin tone, when we think about gender and how this is all my identities, how do you separate to celebrate?
Do you have to separate?
That's up to you. Is that your opinion? Like, I don't believe we should have to. However, in the city, sometimes I feel like, this is just me, that it is very siloed and separated.
Remember that time trans resistance marched through like Roxbury, Nubian, Dorchester, and how that felt? That was, it was on another level. And I think there was a sense of how are people, everybody's sitting outside. It's gorgeous, right? Everyone's on the stoop. Everybody's on like the sidewalk. Everyone's enjoying having barbecues, parrilladas, and they see us because we're not hiding in these communities, in the Latinx community, in the Black community, the Cape Verdean community. We're marching through all the different groups of folks who migrated to this area to make it what it is, and they all heard Rita Hester's name being yelled. They all heard, well, we're here too, right? This isn't just in Boston Common. This is not just in like, you know, Times Square in New York. This is not just something that like gay white men do in P-Town, right? Like we have always been a part of these movements. It's just, I think there was always a sense, well, it's harder, right? And is it? I don't think so, right? I mean, like, how many worship leaders at churches do you know that are also queer people, right? Like, how many people do you know in our communities that are just, people are aware? In my family, you know, we just don't discuss it, which is, used to be me, but I talk about it a lot now. Panama was a closet. It is no longer a closet, thank God. You know, and that in turn allowed my 19-year-old cousin now, like, the possibility for him to consider, like, who am I in this? You know, and we wished each other happy Pride today. So like, it's, I think that is even more, it allows us permission to say like, we've been here, but it is more dangerous, I think, and actually more powerful for us to then like be at the forefront of the movement, to me. You know?
What I received from what you shared, take a moment. Have you ever felt like, this is related to the question, have you ever felt like your very existence is an act of rebellion?
Yes.
That was a reflection I was holding when you shared that, because being visible in our intersections and spaces where we've heard it's not right to be visible, or we feel socially like it's not right to be visible, takes so much, and we do it.
Yeah.
And it's so heavy to do that. The only thing else I'd add to what you both have shared is I've been thinking a lot about belonging in the city of Boston, both within the Black community, which involves those of us who are Black, and at the intersection of being queer or trans. And I think about how sometimes it feels like actions meant to include others can be felt as exclusive to others. And when I think about where the work is, I think that's one of the spaces of work. Supporting a space for someone to feel included is not intended to exclude, but it is received that way. And I just think there's work to be done around belonging, where people can feel like they belong in spaces where people both share identities and experiences and may have differences. Diversity is beautiful. And we have such an opportunity to really see and feel the value of diversity within the Black community, within communities of color, at the intersection of being queer and not being queer. And what you've mentioned about spaces where we see that intersection, seeing it in faith communities, seeing it in people who are visible, who can show individuals and representation of that existing and existing in a way where you don't have to separate yourself.
Thank you for answering that question with the word belonging, because I think that was the point of the question for me, is like, why do we feel as though things are either reserved for just us but excludes others? And I really want us as a city to kind of just get rid of those barriers, if you will, because I feel like, you know, say this space is filled with 550 people. There are 500 people, no, 550 people. And we say, you know, we're celebrating Pride because today is the first day of Pride Month. What I find is that even sometimes allies can feel excluded from the space because they don't identify and or feel as though they may be a threat to the space by just showing up.
Yeah.
When I think about that, I also think about Black folks, and I think about BIPOC folks, and I'm thinking, okay, well, if these people can feel like that, then what does this feel like to cis hetero BIPOC folks?
Yeah.
They may feel the same way. I don't want to come into a space and feel as though I'm taking up space in space that you just got, or space that is only exclusive to you.
Yeah.
So that leads me to my next question, is how do we feel as communities, as people of these communities? How can we just make people feel safer in that, reminding ourselves that we can't guarantee safety?
Yeah.
I know that safety is a question that's constantly asked, like we have to make spaces safe, but none of us can guarantee 1000% safety in a space at any given time. We just can't. However, we can do our due diligence and try to put our best foot forward to ensure safety and healthiness within the space. But I lead that question to you all, is like, how can we make these spaces where it's inclusive to everybody without also dimming the light on the folks that the space is intended for?
I love that.
I don't know if there's one answer. You know, I think it depends. I honestly think one way is the acknowledgement of queer families. Like, the space was safe for us to do with what we will. But was it safe, or did it feel comfortable for queer elders? Or queer, or trans people, or queer youth? And so it's almost like in our idea of inclusion and belonging, to your point, you're making it instantly more open by showing our community in its fullness and showing the society as a whole. Look at our families, you know, look at trans people in their like glory, whatever that looks like to be non-binary, whatever that looks like to be trans, because you don't get to dictate that to them, you know. And we have kids, and they grow up, and we get old, you know, and like maybe that's a part of it, right?
And I love the fact that you named intergenerational,
Yeah.
because that's really important. We are still educating our elders on what is happening today, as well as educating ourselves, because we understand that we are the new elders and the new ancestors.
We are.
And then understanding that also, what that does for the youth and the generations coming after us. And because I feel like intergenerational happiness, joy, celebration, liberation is important for all of us, because it dictates what the society is going to look like. I just want to say thank you both for joining this conversation this afternoon. You both have given so much heaviness, fullness, insight, education. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Please, everybody, please put your hands together again for Cristela and Adrianna. Thank you so much. Can I give y'all a hug? Okay.
Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Outspoken Saturday. Again, we are here at GBH Yaki Theater celebrating Pride Month and Juneteenth. And you know we couldn't have an Outspoken Saturday without speakers, right? So I want to thank again our panelists, Adrianna and Cristela. That was such an amazing conversation. And just as a reminder, again, June 8th from 11 to 8, we have Boston Pride. So make sure that you drink your water and make sure that you nourish yourself really, really well because we're going to be outside all day celebrating. With that being said, if you want to learn more about that, just follow Boston Pride for the People and as well as GBH on all of our platforms for all upcoming information and event. With that being said, are we ready for our Outspoken Saturday?
Hi everyone, happy Pride. I just want to say that panel was amazing and it's a tough act to follow. Thank you so much for having me. Today I picked a poem that I think is perfect for Pride, and you all are the first to hear it, other than my therapist. So, but yeah, but my therapist liked it, so hopefully you all will too. The poem is called "I Am My Own Creation." You asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up. I told you I wanted to be a boy. You said that was impossible. You told every other child in the class they could be whatever they wanted. Yeah, like every girl in the class was going to be a professional ballerina. At 4 years old, I had to forge my own path. I prayed to God I wouldn't go through puberty. No one told me what it meant to be non-binary. Read every book I could find and only learned about trans men and women, not those in between. I'm still undoing the damage from those years of living in the wrong body. You can't stand me because if you looked the way I do, you wouldn't be this confident. I shine so bright, I illuminate your secrets. I am an ever-evolving painting. Every decision I make, another mark. You hate that I am in love with myself. When you scorn at my gender expression, I create beauty in the space outside of the confines of female and male. When you tell me I don't fit into men's clothes, I tell you your ignorance doesn't fit into your claimed worldview. How tragic that you can't see my beauty, because I am a beauty to behold. I'm dripping with authenticity. My colors blend together, evoking feelings you've never felt. Each mark is unpredictable, each emotion indescribable. I don't need testosterone to fit into your idea of human. I love my clean-shaven face and smooth skin. My nipples look amazing, no hormones required. My scars are a beautiful part of me, a symbol of my resilience. I don't need a deep voice to conform to your expectations of masculinity. You say I'm too assertive, that I'm full of myself. Yeah, I do love myself. Is that a problem? I am my own creation, and I love who I've become. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So I actually studied poetry at Southern Hampshire University, and I almost got a bachelor's, but like a real poet, stuff happened, and I didn't get it yet. So, you know. So this is my piece, and it's called "I'm Not a Heartbreaker, I'm a Heartbroker." I am not a heartbreaker, I'm a heartbroker. Example. I will exchange one kiss with you as long as you kiss me back. Example. I will invest money, time, though I find the latter more costly, as long as we're both equally invested. Example. I am always willing to negotiate. I'll fold the laundry. Just for the love of God, please don't make me load the dishwasher. Example, I will trade you. Text for text, like for like, leave googly-eyed emojis under your pictures, just leave hearts under mine. Example, I'll barter. What I mean is, I'll do the thing that you like if you do the thing that I like. Example, I'll sell. I'll sell anything to make this work, except I'll never sell you out as long as you're willing to do the same. Example, we can exchange. An even exchange, one that the Trade Commission will never question or red flag. Example, I'll give you security. You're dealing with somebody who knows exactly what they're doing. This is what I do. Example, I love to love. Example, to be in love. Example, to be love. Example, the thing is, there's never any real security with love. This will be the biggest investment you make and the biggest risk, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it until... Example, the divorce papers are just as easy to sign as the marriage license. Example, the red flags don't look like red flags when you're in love, so you don't listen to the Trade Commission. The exchange isn't always even. It isn't always 50-50. Some days it's 90-10, some days it's 60-40, some days it's 70-30, and you have to be okay with that. But some people just aren't, so they sell out. They must recoup all of their losses, so they stop doing the thing that you like. But you'll still barter and they'll still trade. There's just less text now, and there isn't any more googly-eyed emojis, and the hearts are gone, and now I'll do the laundry, and I'll do the dishes, and I'll still do the thing that you like, because remember I said I'm always willing to negotiate, because we've invested so much time and so much money. So please just one more kiss, just one. I am not a heartbreaker. I'm a heartbroker. Example, I lost it all.
My name is Luka. I am a transgender poet from New Hampshire. And following what we talked about during that panel and the poems that have been read already, I want to kind of talk about my poem because, like many things in my life, it is cloaked in metaphor. When I was growing up in the early 2000s and in the household I was raised in, you could not say, I'm gay. You could barely say, Elton John is gay. And that is an indisputable fact. You couldn't, when I was in like high school, our GSA was barely allowed to advertise. And so much has changed and so much hasn't. So this is a poem about my experience with gender without ever saying any of those words. My pronouns are Your Highness. And no, that's not up for debate. I've walked every step of my life in the leadways of nobility, following their guide in a mumble and a lowered head, fumbling helplessly with my crown as it clatters to the floor. Tonight, try to balance it gingerly on my head, and I will raise my chin and refuse to let it fall. For decades, I've ruled a kingdom of only spirits, the invisible eyes that fall on me for guidance. I've led them so poorly. They depend on my voice, and I've lowered it time and time again in favor of who? Those who are afraid of hearing me speak? I have more to say than I'm sorry. I exist in a community that has prevailed for eons, and we are tired of tucking our crowns away. I am the overseer of the unknown, and we demand to no longer have to shout to be heard. My pronouns are Your Highness. My crown is composed of words unspoken, and I refuse to let it fall again.
I'm just an emotional mess today. So if you still see tears, it's okay. These poets, this is why this is needed. Spoken word is such a beautiful, beautiful art form, because we really don't know what people are going through just by the first look of them. And these pieces are just so amazingly beautiful. So thank you all who have already came up here. Are we ready for our next Outspoken Saturday poet?
My name is Gabriella Lipsitch. I'm a poet, visual artist, and 1 week away from being a high school graduate. And I'm going to be reading a poem called Gender Dysphoria Elegy. It's about parts of my experience being gender. Gender Dysphoria Elegy. It drags me down with a hook in my chest. My lungs are starved of air. My blood transports no oxygen from my heart to my mind. By the time I remember to eat, I don't have the energy to heat up a microwave meal. Womanhood now is a painfully bright smile and a customer service voice, high and false. I can't muster the easy bravado it takes to release the tension in my chest, so I shove the beast beneath a tarp in my stomach. Squirms to get out and shred my heart. I can only take so many pretty skirts and niceties. I feel the emptiness even as I forget what used to fill it, a name, a feeling, a default sorrow, but all I can do is wait and watch and wish I could shapeshift or disappear, because the worst part is not the pain, not the ache or the monster or the sound of my voice. The worst part is the shame, the burning in my face when I must admit to my condition, the judgment and the sugary smirks. The worst part is the way I enjoy femininity. Sometimes. Often, but I just can't make it last. I want to be a specter, solid as stone and malleable as smoke, with eyes as sharp as knives and a jawline to match. I want to be a specter, smooth as satin and gauzy soft, all curves and angles and spinning, spinning, spinning. Stop. I'm not a specter. And I'm not a woman, not always, and I'm not ready to shout my heart from the rooftops. But here I am anyway.
That concludes our Outspoken Saturday for June 1st, Pride and Juneteenth. I was going to read a piece, but we are not going to do that today because I will probably be an emotional mess. So with that being said, I want to thank every single person who has performed this afternoon. So thank you again to Sonny, Luka, Sam, and Gabriella. Give it up for them one more again. I also would love to thank our panelists again, Cristela and Adrianna. Remembering Pride, Boston Pride for the People is June 8th from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. So make sure that you're there and you're fully hydrated. With that also said, before we go, I want to thank everybody again for attending, all of our in-audience. So give it up to you all for being here. And I also want to thank our wonderful GBH crew, to Maddie. Give it up for Maddie. Woo! Give it up for Carly. Woo! Give it up for Bradley Lewis. Hey! Jose! And Sandra Lopez Burke in the front. Thank you so much for all that you do, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, but even more importantly, have a beautiful Pride and Juneteenth. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you in September.